Art is everywhere we look. We have access to countless masterpieces just waiting for us to visit them for free in DC. Looking at art without a background understanding is nice. You can appreciate the work that went in and the feelings you felt. I have found through my studies of art at VCU, a university in Germany, and Nova, that knowing the knowledge of art helps add depth and understanding to what you are looking at. The history of art is long, complex, and follows people from all walks of life, and would take more than 6 minutes to explain, which is why this speech will be concentrated on Western art forms, focus on the different art movements from the Renaissance to the early 20th century, showing the general arc of art and how they connect. I started with the Renaissance art because it was a new era in art. That looked more realistic and experimented with depth, linear perspective, i.e. how 3D does the picture look, and the light and dark shadows. More value was placed on knowledge and personal responsibility while incorporating the new discoveries of ancient Greek and Roman arts and ideas. Baroque art followed by adding an emotional intensity that the Renaissance art did not have. The art captured a moment in time. The way the figures are contorted and the expression on their faces often show a fleeting moment. The poses are dynamic and unstable. The two David sculptures, the first, the Botticelli, and the second, the original, the Michelangelo, shows the differences between the two art forms. Michelangelo's David, standing tall and godlike, with his perfect body at rest, represents the Renaissance art, while Bernini's David is in action, about to throw a rock, killing Goliath. Rococo artists saw the emotions in the Baroque art and thought that art should be more playful and light-hearted. So, the color palette became lighter, and pastels were very often used. Colors like pink had a different meaning for people in this time. It was considered a manly color because it was a washed-down version of red. The art from this movement was loved by the aristocracy who hung it up in their estate. Neoclassic art, on the other hand, broke away from the Baroque art to move back to the classics. They shunned the Rococo art movement for being too shallow and sensual. The neoclassics idolized sacrifice, courage, and being patriotic. Critics have called it emotionless and cold. The Romantic art movement saw a shifted mood in the West. The French, American, and Industrial Revolution all happened around this time, and the art reflected that. Romantic art is not art that is romantic. Art historians actually struggle to form an exact definition of this movement. What they do agree on is that Romantic art shows passion and intense personal expression, which can be seen throughout this time. Realism continues the trajectory away from the elite to represent real things. They did not idealize every day, but instead highlighted it along with the middle class and the poor. They brought the working life into the foreground. Another shift in the art world was the invention of the camera. By allowing for perfect renditions of people and things, cameras were now accurately taking pictures of people or landscapes. So for the good or the bad, the artists changed their style and new movements arose. For the first time, artists on a large scale were not trying to necessarily paint exactly what they saw with the most accuracy they could. The Impressionists used colors that were more vibrant, the brushstrokes were more visible and shorter, and things were not finely finished. Some loved this new movement while others hated it. The Impressionist movement got its name after critics called Monet's painting, Impression Sunrise, seen on the left, as An impression of a painting. Post-Impressionist movement followed with more emotional expression the use of symbols and yet more visible colors and forms. The colors were unrealistic and more often had a calculated juxtaposition. The most important painting depicted more rural scenes and everyday subjects. I would love to continue telling the story of art, moving into Expressionism, New Art Nouveau, Cubism, Dada, Surrealism, Abstraction, action paintings, pop art, and so much more, but time does not permit. This does not mean that you cannot continue to learn. The majority of the information I used was from the Preble's Art Forms textbook, which you can find at any Nova library. I would recommend it if you are interested. Art is constantly evolving. One style is called the norm. It is held up as a standard for others until a new art form comes and questions and replaces the old. The art is tied to history, the mood of the nation, a moment, or nothing at all. I hope that the next time you are at a museum and you will have a bit of a better overall understanding of art history.